Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to take a look at a pretty wide range of items that sold here recently on eBay. We're going to start off with a few action figures, but the vast majority of the items I'm going to cover in today's video are either unused contents or mint in sealed box vehicles, playsets, and creatures. Jeff's Collectible Empire, Jeff Jacobs, who is a big Star Wars collector and pretty well known on some of the Facebook groups, he's got an incredible collection, and he did pick up a recent collection of awesome vehicles, playsets, and things like that that all sold at auction that I wanted to go through in more detail. I know a number of you picked up some of these items, and they were some stunners. So let's go ahead and dig right in. I've got a few figures I wanted to touch on. This is one I sent out to my Patreon supporters, and somebody did grab it. This is the No COO Cater Factory Small Hood Jawa. It looked to be super clean. This is one I wouldn't mind getting. I don't think I have this one in my collection. There's the stamp on the back of the leg there. So it just says GMFGI 1977. Now, I always took this one to be a Palatoy, but apparently this seller is saying that it's a Cater Factory, and I did confirm this. It is a Cater Factory made in China. So I do find it interesting that the grading companies don't label this as a China country of origin, because it doesn't say China on the leg, even though, you know, that they label it as a no COO, small hood. But I know that there's a smooth cape no COO Palatoy Jawa. This one apparently is not it. I think the eyes are a little bit different. If somebody with a little bit more knowledge wants to leave a like and then also comment below. But I didn't dig in too much on Variant Villain with the Jawas. There's so many different variations that it got kind of overwhelming for the purposes of this video. But I think there's an eye variation when you compare this no COO Cater versus the Palatoy no COO. But I did want to point it out because it was an awfully pretty figure. These photos really accentuated how nice that figure looks. So that one did sell for $53 plus shipping. Here was a beautiful blue snags that sold at auction, and you can see there that the torso has no discoloration, a little bit of paint overspray on the belt, and then a little bit of paint rub on the boots. This is probably about an 80 grade figure, and that one sold for $470, which I don't think is a terrible deal at all relative to some of the other examples we've seen in these loose complete videos where they were not nearly this clean, maybe had some discoloration to the torso, boots were in worse shape, or the belt or the hands or something. But I think this is easily an 80 grade, and to get it for $470 is not a bad price at all. That's a price I would have paid all day long. Very nice looking figure. Now we'll dig into some last 17 before we dig into what I promised about the vehicles and playsets. This was a gorgeous example of the Imperial Gunner. It was advertised as C9 condition, and I would argue that that is absolutely the case. I mean, maybe a little bit of paint rub on this emblem there. This emblem was still nice and bright though. Belt was in good shape, just a couple little rubs on it. Probably overall an 80 or an 80 plus pretty easily. That one sold for $263 US or 405 Australian dollars. Same seller also had the Barata, which I would argue was pretty close to the same condition, if not a little bit better. One little rub on the bandolier around his chest that you can see right there. But overall, very clean. Here's the back. The backpack is the other area that I always talk about that gets a lot of rubs. This one had none. Maybe a little bit of overspray from the gray onto the yellow tunic, but very clean figure. I think it grades an 80 plus, maybe an 85 overall. Very nice figure. And that one sold for 255 Australian, which is 165 US dollars. Now, AFA 85s can set you back 250, 260-ish, somewhere in there. Maybe you get lucky in an auction and get it for 240 already graded. But I think that's a pretty good deal there. Next up, here was that Yak Face that I had in my What to Buy video recently. And this one included the hard-to-find coin. So the Yak Face complete with the staff. You have to excuse my lip here. I'm still dealing with a cut tongue because I got overly excited eating some celery. I don't remember what I was eating, but everyone makes fun of me for eating so much celery. So my tongue is killing me. But this one did include the coin. So that's really what drove this price up. The figure itself with the staff, you're probably talking, I don't know, 600 maybe, 550 to 600 easily. in this kind of condition. This one sold for $10.35, mainly again because of the coin. Very tough to get that Power of the Force coin. And the figure was probably about 80 grade condition. It wasn't perfect, but because that coin was included, that really drove the price up. Next up, same seller also had the R2-D2 Popup Saber, and this one also included the coin. The sticker was obviously not in great shape, kind of yellowed, which is very common, unfortunately. This is probably 75 grade condition for the figure and saber, but the coin helped bring that price up a little bit. That sold for $600. Pretty good deal on that one. Here was the Luke Stormtrooper with the correct blaster, it looks like, and also the coin. That one sold for $406. Now, the Luke had obvious yellowing to the figure, which probably held the price down a little bit. We've talked recently about how Luke Stormtroopers have really jumped up in price, but this one was held down because the arms and legs still had some yellowing going on. So this is probably like a 75 grade Luke Stormtrooper plus the coin. Very nice, though. I mean, maybe it gets a 75 plus, somewhere in that ballpark. Very nice, though. 406, I think, was a really good deal relative to what they're going for sometimes in high grade, AFA 80s and 85. So good deal on that one. I had to talk about this one before we dig into the play sets and vehicles. This was sold down in Australia, and apparently it's a really rare 3-pack of Return of the Jedi toothbrushes. They're all factory sealed together. It includes like an Anakin version with Obi-Wan. It had a Luke Jedi and then a Vader. OralB toothbrushes that are vintage from 1983. Look at that final sales price in an auction. It sold for 1,774 Australian dollars, which is 1,152 US dollars. I was blown away by that number, and I had no idea that this was something that was so rare. But for those of you that have like 30 cavities right now, and your teeth are falling out because you never opened your toothbrushes, you got the last laugh. You might look like a mouth breather, but don't worry about it. It looks amazing because you can now buy a brand new grill based on the sales price of your unused OralB toothbrushes. So I just had no idea about that. That was unbelievable. All right, so now we're going to dig into all of Jeff's Collectible Empire's items, and it was a wide assortment of items that he picked up and that he sold over the last couple of weeks, and I included auctions from both of them. But this is an unused contents Darth Vader carrying case. It still had the outer wrapper on it. It was opened, apparently. You can see there that it opened briefly to show you that the sticker sheet and the insert were still there. That one sold for $155. Now, factory sealed examples still have kind of a black electric tape, electrical tape that goes around the top portion of the head. This one apparently is missing that. So it's no longer considered factory sealed, but it is unused contents because the sticker sheet's unused and it obviously still has the insert there. So $155.50 on that one. Also had a shrink-wrapped C-3PO carrying case. This was still mint and sealed box, factory sealed. $203.50 on that one. This is a fairly common one, an easier one to find versus the Vader carrying case, but this one was still shrink wrapped with no holes in the shrink wrap, which is common. The outer wrapper, the cardboard outer wrapper was in a little bit of issues, but probably about 75 grade, I would say. But pretty cool to see that one sell as well. Here was an unused ATAT Walker pulled from a damaged box. So it did not have the box, but the actual ATAT Walker was unused sticker sheet with the cardboard insert and with the instruction sheet. So another very nice looking item. It's a shame that the box was not included as well. Even if it was tatty, it would have been a nice to have. But only the insert was included to show that the ATAT Walker was never assembled. So that one sold for $488 plus $20 shipping. Now we're going to dig into some factory sealed items. I think the rest of these are all factory sealed if memory serves. But here was an Empire Strikes Back packaging Scout Walker, and this one had the Hoth kind of ice background versus the Endor background on the Return of the Jedi version of this particular AT-ST Walker. This one sold for $375. Now, you got to remember that a lot of these were kind of beat up. They were probably stacked in some guy's closet and, kind of shuffled over the years. And so they did have some creases and wear to them, but still, they're factory sealed. And so it's a nice gauge for those of you that collect factory sealed playsets and vehicles in kind of 70, 75 grade shape. This will give you kind of a low price point to aim for since these were all at auction. Buy it now, you're probably not going to see them this low. But I do think it's kind of a nice data point for those of you that collect these. $375 plus $20 shipping, so about $400. Now, in high grade, already graded, or it maybe even ungraded, but in much better condition, you can double that number easily. An AFA 80, for example, would probably set you back about $1,000. That's where I've seen even on Facebook. When Chris sold that jackpot collection, I seem to remember one of these that was sold. It might have been a buy logo version, but it sold for around $900 to $1,000, somewhere in that ballpark. Next up is a battle-damaged Imperial TIE Fighter. Now, this one was not mint in seal box. This one was never removed from the box. So you can see there that one side was no longer factory sealed, but it still showed that has never been removed, still inside the box. So this would be one that would qualify for qualified grading. Now, it would be a low grade because of the box condition, but the interior stuff had never been touched, never been assembled. So it's probably like a 70 grade, you know, once you factor in all the damage to the outer box. That one sold for $360 plus $12 shipping. Again, in higher grade, probably triple that number, certainly 2.5 times that number, $1,000 easily. Next up was a mint and sealed box. I've got several mint and sealed box, all the collector series from the reissues that were issued in about 1983 for all of the different collector series. So we got the Darth Vader TIE Fighter, the TIE Advanced. This one was mint and sealed box, and the box was actually in pretty good shape for this one. So this one sold for $449, not a bad deal, plus $20 shipping. And then they had the Collector Series Land Speeder. Again, the box was in pretty good shape on this one, probably about 80 grade. This one sold for $425, plus $20 shipping. And then next up was the Duback, the Collector Series Duback. So these were all the later releases that came out right around the time of the Return of the Jedi. They reissued a lot of the original Star Wars vehicles and creature, and obviously the Duback's a creature, but this box was also in great shape. That one sold for $375, and we've seen some AFA graded examples that sell for double that or more. So obviously it's expensive to ship and get back from the grading company plus the grading cost, but you know, I've seen $600 for like a 75 grade, $650. And then when you get into 80s and 85s, you're talking $800 to $900 very regularly. So I thought $375 was a good deal on that one. Next up, we had the Rancor Monster, mint and seal box, factory sealed. Pretty good shape, it looks like, for the box. Just some light scuffs to it. Probably an overall 80 would be my estimate on this one. That one sold for $425 plus $20 shipping. We had the Jabba the Hutt Dungeon Action Playset. Now, this is the first release with Klaatu Skiff Guard, Nikto, and 8D8. Obviously, there was a later release where they reissued this with 3 baggies for Last 17 figures. It was Barata, EV99, and Amanaman. So this is the less expensive version. This one sold for $444.80 and was probably about 75 grade condition on that one. Next up was a BWing. This was also mint and sealed box, factory sealed, and in pretty decent shape overall. This is probably about a 75 plus because of the scuff right here that you see on the box. So it's a shame that it had a little bit of damage to it, but the rest of the box was in really good shape. That one sold for $450 plus $20 shipping. And then we had a very tough to find battle damaged X-Wing Fighter. This is one that is always sought after. Just not many of these out there that are survivors, especially factory sealed. So even this one, which, you know, the box was not perfect, probably about a 75 grade. Even that one in the condition it was in, which is really good. I mean, this is a very good item. That one sold for $535 plus $20 shipping, which I've seen them sell for this unused contents and not factory sealed for this price very regularly. So $400 to $450 all day long for those. This one, $535 plus $20 shipping, so about $550 for a mint and sealed box. That was a good deal. Very good deal on that one. Next up was the TIE Interceptor mint and sealed box. Box was not perfect, but pretty decent shape overall. Probably it's on the borderline, I think. But yeah, never mind. This is a 75 at best because of the creasing on the bottom there. The rest of the box looked really good. And then when I got to this photo, you can see there it's got quite a bit of creasing. So this might be a 70 plus, maybe 75, somewhere in that ballpark. So that kept the price down. It sold for $460. I've seen high grade examples go for $1,000 as well. So Again, that's another one that's very sought after. Just great box art. Harder to find TIE Interceptor with those pointy wings. Just really awesome. Next up, we had some big items here. We got some really big items. We're digging into some big ones. This is the Ewok Village Action Playset, mint in sealed box, and in very, very good shape overall. I would argue this is probably an 80 grade. The box still is very nice and white on those portions. Usually this kind of discolors and turns kind of a gray color. But this box was in really pristine condition for what it is. I would personally grade this an 80. So this was a beauty, and it was mint in sealed box. That sold for $935 plus $20 shipping. Here was the big boy. This is the Millennium Falcon, mint in sealed box, Return of the Jedi packaging. Obviously, they had an Empire Strikes Back Bespin packaging, a Star Wars packaging. There was like 2 or 3 different versions of it, but this one was factory sealed, as you can see here. A little bit of scuffing to it all the way around. You know, some kind of weird discoloration going on there. Maybe mold, it looks like, unfortunately. Yeah, that looks like mold to me. But that still sold for $1,642. Probably would not get higher than about a 70, because of the mold. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they gift you a 75, or maybe you can very carefully remove that mold with, you know, water and like a damp cloth, something like that. It might salvage that and get rid of the mold. But that one did sell for $1,642. Here is the Ewok Battle Wagon, also factory sealed. This is a very, very desirable item. Again, the box was not perfect. It had some creases, things like that. Most of these did. But this was a beauty, and we've seen some loose complete examples without the box at all sell for huge numbers. And this one sold for $918, which I thought was a great deal. I mean, I've seen some you know, examples that are loose complete sell for almost that price. So that was a bargain at $918. Next up was the Tatooine Skift, factory sealed. Now, the box was tatty. It did have some major damage to the box. Probably at best a 60 would be what my estimate would be on the grade for this. But it was still factory sealed. Great box art. I absolutely love the box art on the Power of the Force skiff. That one sold for $1,375. Now, high-grade examples, I've seen them sell for $2,500 to $3,000 easily. That's probably a low number, honestly, for an AFA 80 these days. But this one is $1,375 was the final winning price on that one. And then finally, we had a mint and sealed box Awing Fighter. It did have a crease on the box, but it was factory sealed and probably grades out about a 75. Maybe you get lucky and get a 75 on that. Maybe a 70, 75, somewhere in that ballpark. But it's factory sealed. Beautiful box art again on that one as well. $1,120 was the winning bid on that, which I think is actually really fair, given that loose complete vehicles, just the vehicle itself, I've seen it sell anywhere from $600 to $800. So to get a factory sealed example for $1,120, good deal on that. Anyway, just lots of vehicles and play sets, creatures, things like that I wanted to cover from Jeff's Collectible Empire, as well as a few loose complete figures. I hope you enjoyed this look at those items. Please leave a like, and I'll be back soon.